Okay, let's make a start. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you found this morning useful. Obviously, we started off with Excel and SQL, and we're now going to move into Power BI. Power BI is another tool that is readily accessible to us all. And it's a great one for analysing and reporting, particularly in relation to corporate dashboards. It's great for taking outputs from other software as well, like Excel, as Michael described earlier. So Naheem will now take us through this exciting tool. So the floor is yours, Naheem. Over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Just share my screen. Start. Welcome everyone to this session of Power BI. I'm just going to go through a small presentation and then provide a demo. So just a little bit about myself. I've worked in management accounts for approximately 10 years. Worked in a few years in costing, worked in the efficiency and benchmarking team, as well as systems development. So I've had a few very different roles. And Power BI I found as one of the something which has helped me a lot, and I've learned a lot of Power BI through my own time and playing with it. But saying that, there's still much more that I don't know than I do. So, but I have developed a number of dashboards, which I'm going to demonstrate one of them with you, and just to showcase what's available, the art of the possible, and the reason why I'm demonstrating the management accounts dashboard is I believe it's got quite a comprehensive number of features in there. So it might not necessarily relate to your specific day-to-day role, but it's a good idea of what Power BI is capable of, and what is possible within Power BI. And maybe you might want to think about how some of these things could be applied to some of the data sets that you deal with. So whilst working in management accounts, one of the biggest frustrations I had is was the sheer volume of data, the sheer volume of reports. I'd go to a budget meeting, the reports would be either in a PDF or an Excel table. I'd sit with the budget holder who probably hasn't engaged with their finances for the whole month. So they'd ask about their numbers. They'd say, this number doesn't look right. What was it 6 months ago, because we had a change in the service? What was our budget here? And I'd be like, okay, we'd have to open another report. So we're constantly opening a large number of files. Sometimes they'd want to know the details behind some of the transactions. So I'd have to open a separate transaction report to look at that. Sometimes they'd want to see their staffing information. We have an ESR report. On top of that, we'd have a separate file for waste reduction, where we're constantly tracking their waste reduction schemes and their programs, and whether it's recurrent, non-recurrent, and so forth, as well as agency overtime and various other things. And then to top it all off, we'd also review the forecast to make sure what their end of year position is and whether it's accurate, and some of the forecast methods are accurate. And that's a lot to pack in a 1 hour meeting. And I felt as though that was often the reason why a lot of these non-finance staff were not engaging, because number one, there was a lot to take in, and number two is fairly complex information, and it's very hard for them to go away on their own and analyze that and take that in. So I've always had that thought as, how do I make it easier? So I'll just be demonstrating a dashboard that I put together, and we can just talk about the different features within there. So this is the landing page, the home page. I've just covered the numbers here just to keep the numbers hidden. So at the top we have a summary, and this would be the cost center that's selected, and the description. We have a summary of that cost center. It could be a number of cost centers, so it doesn't have to be one. So if someone's a senior manager, they're looking after 10 cost centers, there'll be 10 cost centers displayed on this report. And you've got there is a summary of pay, non-pay, and income, with the normal high-level data. We can also switch between cost centers if we need to. If we want to look at different cost centers one at a time, that's possible. A high-level metric here is the in-month variance over the last 6 months. So we are overspent this month, but how did we look like over the last X amount of months? So we can see last month we were actually underspent, and this month, or the 4 months before that, we were overspent. So again, I think the color coding helps, the graphs help, and everything is interlinked as well. So we can click on a number. It's not working. We can click on a number and we can kind of see for the top 5 overspends, this subjective was £2.3 million overspent. If I click on that, we can see over the last few months how under or overspent it was. Some of these other graphs are high-level metrics as waste reduction target, how much has been met, how much is outstanding, a summary of the bank and agency spend in proportion to each other over the last 2 years. So ideally, we want to get agency as low as possible and try and see a reduction in bank usage. But and then at the bottom, we've also got an overtime summary as well. So the amount we've paid on overtime. Again, we can drill into this data further and see the detail behind these numbers as well, which staff members it was, what pay elements there were, and so forth. And then down here is a cost of premium sessions. So this is a very high level summary for the budget holder. And again, as I said, it's fully clickable. You can choose different months if you want, which goes back a number of years. You can choose different specialties or directorates or cost centers. We can also only show the pay information, only show the non-pay or income information. So again, it's just a very nice and simple summary. Then if we go to the bulk of the report where we're just going into a bit more detail. Oops. Sorry, I just need to go back for a sec. I'm just going to select a cost center and go into this report. So the front page shows the cost center and a summary about that cost center, in-month position, year-to-date position, as well as colours based on conditional formatting. If it's a negative, often we get the question, is a negative a good thing or is a negative a bad thing? So there are colour schemes there to help the budget holder identify if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Again, there are a lot of hidden filters in here, and I didn't want to display them on the front page because it gets very, very clunky. So if you can see this cog button, we can click on the cog button. What it does, we've got the option to change months if we need to, directorate, specialties. We can select a cost center, but also we can search for a cost center or a cost center description. So if I want to just see all the cardiology cost centers, I can type in cardiology and they will all show up. So that's just a hidden feature in the background. So once we're happy, so again, this can have 1 cost center, it can have 10 cost centers, it can have 20 cost centers, but it's up to the end user what they're responsible for and at what level they want to see it. So we have, for this example, I'm just going to show the 1 cost center. If I click on subjective summary, this breaks down the cost center. So it's like a normal budget report with red and green flags, which people will be fairly familiar with. Got very high level key metrics at the top. And then some of the other features, if we click the top 10 graph, we can see the top 10 underspending subjectives and the top 10 overspending subjectives. So that could be an area of focus. So it helps if we've only got a 1 hour meeting, we can direct our conversations towards some of these areas. If, for example, someone wants to identify what is behind this rent column, what is that number? We can click on the detailed transaction and we've got a detailed transaction report going behind, which details all the information behind it. And from there, also, if we want to view invoices, there's a URL link which we can click and view the invoices as well. So we have got a detailed transaction behind these numbers. There's also, I've created a little toggle button afterwards for discretionary spend. Sometimes we focus a lot, we focus on discretionary spend, especially when there's waste reduction pressures, to see. And then it's just a toggle button which will take away any non-discretionary spend and only show the discretionary spend lines, an area which we might be able to focus on. So that's on the front page. So just going on to the next tab, which I've done as the trends page. So again, the top section is very much similar to what you've previously seen. We've got top 10 overspends by subjectives, which you can see on the top right-hand side. And I'll go through these graphs one by one. So the first graph here shows an analysis of the budget over the last 12 months. So if the budget's gone up or down, or what's changed in the budget, so which is the pinkish line. And then the blue line is the in-month actuals. So you can see there is a bit of volatility over the last 12 months. So where the blue line is above the pink line, that's an overspend. Where the blue line is under the pink line, it's an underspend. And that's reflected on this graph on the right. So you can kind of see where the overspends are and what the values of them overspends are, and where the underspends are and what the values are. So them two correlate to each other. This graph at the bottom, I'm going to expand it again. This is another feature where we can actually just spotlight. So if you want the audience just to focus on a certain area, we could do that. Again, it's just that's not particular to this report. It's any Power BI is one of the features. I'm just going to expand it. There's a focus mode which will expand this graph. What this graph does, the orange line is our cumulative year-to-date value for last year. So last year on this cost center, we spent £770,000. This year, this solid line, which goes up to December, is showing us currently 660. So which is already £110,000 higher than last year. And then the dotted line is our forecast. So it helps us realize where we will be at the end of the year, whether there's some work to do on the forecast, or whether we need to do something to bring that end of year value back down to last year, or if there's a genuine business reason why that is. So I thought it's a very nice and simple and easy on the eye graph. And then on the right hand side, it's a month-on-month change between the values. But also this is fully interactive. So if I only want to look at, for example, Band 7 or the healthcare scientists, we can see their budget's always been that much and their costs have been higher, and then they've reduced over time. In the same way, we can click on any of these subjectives and we can see prior year costs, this year costs, and the forecast. And then I'm just going to go into the next tab, which is a very similar format, but this is on stats now. So this is the same cost center, but based on stats. So we've got budget of 16 whole-time equivalents, and these are our contracted staff members. So the gap between budgeted and contracted is our number of vacancies. If we were over-established, these bars on the right-hand side, they'd be red. And we can see we've started to fill our vacancies over the last 12 months. At the bottom, we've got a list of subjectives as well. So it's very easy if a staff member says to me, I want to look at my band 3s, what's happened to my band 3s this year. I can click on the band 3 or the healthcare scientist. You can see the budget has increased in May, and we can see the staff in post has increased since January 23. And then over here, I've purposely just kept numbers here without any names, just for, but you can see month on month how many whole-time equivalents are under the band 3. So we can easily say currently your person X is contracted to 0.48. So is this person, etc. We can easily identify any leavers, any new starters, just by looking at this. For example, this person left at the end of August, maybe September. And this person at the bottom started in September. So we can just map that out as well. Again, forecast-wise, there's within Power BI, we've got the option to do different filters based on categories, different types of categories. We can select on a subjective type or a subjective category, and we can see our in-month budget. We can see our forecast for this month, and we can see what we actually spent and how different our forecast for the month was to our actual. And then we can try and look at them and see why it's different and whether we need to build that into our forecast. Along the bottom, there's a bar chart which visually represents that information. So the pink bars represent the actuals and the green bars are the forecasts. So if I was to click on, when I click on rent here, oh, not rent, let's look at something medical and surgical equipment. I was to click on, actually, I'm going to do this hearing aids purchases. So if we see our actuals over the last X amount of months, in this month, it has been higher than expected. But I believe the forecast of what we forecasted initially was fairly accurate based on the knowledge we had. So some things happened in month which might be a one-off, but that's something to investigate. And then going forward, the forecast is in line with previous months. So it's a very nice visual representation. And again, something like this could be applied to financial accounts, to payroll, to any other areas, costing, different areas within finance. And then we have the waste reduction. Again, very similar format where we can see the different non-pay elements. And we can see where we're underspending. So if I click on rent, so this shows our variance over the last 2 years. So if there was a subjective where we're constantly underspending for the last 2 years, we could have that conversation that if we're constantly underspending, why can this not be a recurrent waste reduction scheme? Why can't we put this recurrently towards waste reduction? So again, it builds that dialogue, builds that information, and it helps the budget holder understand their data a lot better, paints a picture. So yeah, for example, if we're just looking at pay here, they're constantly underspending. Again, we can click on a subjective and see if that's been the case all year. And it just gives them extra bits of insights into this. So now that I've been through the demonstration, I'm just going to carry on with the rest of my slideshow. So, and I thought it's important to do the demonstration before I talk about the features, because then we can relate to some of what we just demonstrated. So Power BI has the ability to import data from various different sources. So as you know, as part of this budget dashboard, we've got about 20 different files, some of which are named written here. There are some other ones as well. So we've got 20 different files with common denominators, which are all tied together. So it's fully interactive and the data makes sense. We can manipulate data, as with Samir's session earlier about Power Query. Power Query is also built into a Power BI, so you can manipulate, set the data to automatically transform the data in the background, and it'll do the same process month in, month out. Again, visual representation. Historically, we had a lot of graphs, a lot of tables with hardly any color or any interactiveness. So it sorted a lot of them problems out. Dynamic filters. We've also got hidden filter menus, like I showed you with the hidden, and that's done by using bookmarks. Identifying trends, I think that's a huge one for us, where we've benefited greatly. And it's really quick. We've got a lot of data in here. We've got 20 plus files every month over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of files with a lot of rows of data. and it's very quick. We can just click and everything works really well. Whereas every time you open an Excel file, it could take a while. So yeah, there is that benefit of using Power BI to analyze data as such. We are hoping in the near future to have live links to Oracle. Currently, as Shakira mentioned, we download data onto our H drive and then link Power BI. But we are having ongoing discussions with our provider, Oracle provider, to be able to link our dashboard to Oracle so that it automatically refreshes and it's live. So at month end, we don't have to download all the reports every day. It's automatically every hour, every 2 hours, it refreshes. So that's something which we're aspiring to. The other thing is role level security. Again, this can apply to anyone, but we have certain budget holders who only are responsible for certain ones. So the cardiology manager should only get the cardiology cost centers. So role level security is a feature which we can use to limit what people can see. Finance staff might be able to see everything, but if there's operational staff, we can set limits to see this person can only see this cost center, or this person can only see certain subjectives, etc. It's very easy to publish to powerbi.com, so anyone with an internet browser can access if they've got the access rights. You can also have maps and other visualizations where I've done bits of work where we've just done based on as part of a payables piece of work, done maps of local suppliers compared to national suppliers and whether national suppliers are treated differently to local suppliers. And the map, it's got a built-in miles, so you can just have a radius of 20 miles or 50 miles or 100 miles. So again, that's an excellent feature if you are doing health economics and so forth. We can also set up key metrics on a mobile phone. So looking at the tables that I've just shown you on a mobile phone might not be the best thing, but we can have high level numbers. And then the other option is we can also embed Power BI presentations into PowerPoint as well. So again, it's that interactive feature. And when we are doing board reports or monthly divisional reports, we can have that embedded Power BI report behind that. So yeah, so just a bit of a comparison as to how life was like before Power BI and how life is currently. I think I've talked about a lot of this anyway, so I'm not going to read it out. And that's it. I think that's my presentation and my demonstration done. Happy to take any questions if anyone has got any.
Naheem, really good, well done. Makes you realise, doesn't it, that the likes of Power BI can really make a massive difference to our reporting, month-end, project reporting type processes. And you can almost, when you're going through it, you can think of many reasons why, if we're not using Power BI, we probably should be doing. And I just wondered if people are thinking the same. And if you work in a function, a finance function, where you do reporting, where you looked at that and thought, I'm not using Power BI, but gosh, if I did, that would make it easier, it would make it look more professional. Just in the chat, if you were thinking that, or actually, no, don't do it in the chat. Just give a thumbs up now. Just give a thumbs up if you think this could be really helpful for you. Look at all those thumbs. Naheem, you're going to be busy. You're going to have lots of people knocking on your door. No, that's great. Really, really good. And I think one of the things that struck me was we've all got efficiency and cost improvement challenges. And you kind of think this would be a good way to track and report some of that as well. So many different types of uses. Got a few questions. Nothing too challenging, I'm sure. First one is from Savannathan. Can we see the December forecast in December to compare with actual, or would we have to have been in November to do that. Presumably you could do that. Is that right? Or
yes, I mean, it could be set up however we would like. If someone wants a specific type of view to be able to see a forecast for the next few months, that's possible. The way we've got it set up works well with us, because when we're doing a forecast review to analyze why our forecasts are different to our actuals, this works well. So it is absolutely customizable according to your needs, and it's not too challenging to change that.
Thanks, Naheem. Another question. So one from Vidala, I think it is. What kind of license does your trust have?
So
sorry to just jump in. What kind of license do you have, and do you need anything specific for Power BI?
So the free licenses are available to everyone. However, you can't share reports using the free licenses. You can upload them to your own little workspace, but they can't be used by the wider teams. We've got a number of pro licenses, which we've worked with our informatics team with, because they produce a lot of their stuff on Power BI as well. So we've got pro licenses paid per license. I don't know how much we've got a couple of hundred. And we use them licenses to access, and with that it allows us to share our budget reports and provide row level security and everything like that. There is a premium option, which is a lump sum for X amount of users, but we don't have that. For us, the pro version works absolutely fine, and I don't think we're looking at changing that anytime soon.
Thanks, Naheem. Another question. So, question from Ping Ping. So, do you have to download all 20-ish data sets each month and save the spreadsheets to a location on which you can then upload it into Power BI, or do you do it directly?
So one of the things which I've learned from Samir, who's no longer on this call, was Oracle URL. So it's an Oracle shortcut where you can just paste an address into the address bar, and it will download a specific report based on what the URL link is. So a lot of our 20 files are from Oracle, but what we're doing is we're going into Edge or Chrome, pasting a link, and it's automatically downloading the files for us. So a lot of the files are like that. Some of the files we manually have to download, but I think majority, at least 10 to 12 of them, are just based on URL. So that saved us a lot of time. But again, once we can get the live link to the Oracle database, that will save a lot more time. That's my next project. That's why I haven't really worked on this dashboard much, because it does the job as it is. I think once we have the live data, it'll be a step change, and then I can maybe redesign, look at some of the things which, because it was part of a learning curve, and there were certain things which I'm looking back, I'm thinking, actually, I could have done this differently. I could have done this better. So I am intending to redesign or redo some of this, but it will be once we have the live link to the data.
But isn't that great though, that you're always learning yourself, aren't you? And you just want to get better at what you're doing, even with the software. So it's just having the time to go back and redo it, isn't it, really? But yeah, no, good stuff. Any final questions for Naheem? Somebody's asked if we can share a template for reference. Is there anything that you could share as an example?
I'm gonna try and dig out something which hasn't got any sensitive information in there, and I will share a high-level template. But every Oracle system is slightly different, set up slightly different. So what works for us might not work for someone else, but at least you'll get to see the overall summary and feed through some dummy cost centers.
Great, thank you for that. Gareth, have you got a question?
It's not a question so much as an observation, really. I think Power BI is fantastic for visual storytelling, but you need to understand how to build a narrative around it. And what I've liked the several times that I've seen Naheem's work is that he's actually thinking about it as a conversation. how do I make the conversation flow? How do I drive the conversation in the right directions? I've got an amount of people and an amount of resource in front of me, and how do I best utilize the resource I've got in front of me? How do I quickly get to the questions that matter? And I think Power BI is a fantastic platform to be able to do that, but I do think that there's a level of skill as well, a skill set that Naheem's demonstrated there, that is to say, how do I use Power BI to leverage how I think about the world and about my job? And I think across all the softwares, and certainly will reflect this in the Power Automate, it's as much about how you kind of program your brain to work, and these are tools then to leverage that. So bit of a profound sort of,
well, yeah, but
pondering. But
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a great point, Gareth. And I think with these tools, they're all very much enablers, aren't they? And you could say, if you sort of think, you could say they're not solutions as such. The solution is wider than that, and like you're saying, it's actually, the solution is more about resolving the problem, which is the application of the enabler, isn't it? So you're spot on with that. Yeah, I might mention that again in my final address. I like that. Good stuff. Right, Naheem, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really good.
Thank you.